Have you ever questioned the source of the subtle resentment you sense from those around you, even when your intentions have been purely to please them? Why does friendship frequently conceal rivalry? Why does affection sour into suspicion the instant you begin to assert your individuality? Let's be unequivocally clear from the outset. Individuals resent what they cannot control. They resent the reflection of their own shortcomings, their concealed envy, and their unspoken fears. This animosity is seldom openly declared. Instead, it manifests in understated dismissals, a cold smile, or a polite betrayal. It's crucial to recognize this not as a personal failing on your part, but as evidence that you have become inconvenient to their cherished illusions. Do not delude yourself into believing you are universally liked. No one is, especially not those brave enough to define themselves. The majority live shackled by their desire for acceptance. They temper their words, diminish their aspirations, and betray their own instincts to remain within the comforting embrace of approval. They submit to the unwritten rules of the collective. Don't be too different. Don't be too direct. Don't disturb the comfort of others with your own clarity. However, if you are listening to this, you have likely already recognized the cost of this path. The constant self-monitoring, the gnawing anxiety about how you are perceived, the cheap exchange of small lies told to maintain everyone's comfort. Understand this. You cannot preserve your integrity and be universally popular. You cannot speak truthfully and avoid stirring resentment. Niccolò Machiavelli himself observed that people are quicker to forget the death of a father than the loss of their inheritance. People may forgive any cruelty, except the cruelty of revealing their dependence on you. You see, when you demonstrate strength, when you withdraw your ready compliance, when you resist manipulation by flattery or guilt, you create unease. You tear away the comforting facade others have imposed on you, the role they assigned you without your consent, and they will resent you for it, even if unspoken. They will label you arrogant when you establish a boundary. They will deem you cold when you decline to explain yourself. They will call you selfish when you prioritize your own needs over their demands. In truth, however, they are not condemning you. They are condemning the threat you pose to their sense of control. Your sustained silence compels them to confront their own thoughts. Your absence exposes how much they relied on your presence to avoid confronting themselves. Consider how readily people project their own flaws onto others. They accuse you of pride to conceal their own envy. They interpret your withdrawal as judgment because, deep down, they recognize their excessive need for you. Machiavelli grasped this well. People judge by appearances because few can see beyond them. Yet, you must perceive. You must learn to recognize the pattern. Observe who turns cold when you set a boundary, who begins to gossip when you say no, who suddenly disregards your kindness when you cease serving their needs. These are not random occurrences. They are precise reactions from individuals losing control over you. And if you crave universal affection, you will relinquish your freedom to obtain it. You will become a marionette, pulled by 1,000 strings, or because you could not bear the thought of being disliked. Ask yourself this: why do you so desperately seek their approval? Why do you feel guilty for disappointing those who would not hesitate to exploit you? Why do you apologize for existing in a form that makes them uncomfortable? This is because you have been conditioned to believe that harmony is always beneficial, that conflict signifies failure, and that being liked is proof of your worth. However, harmony without respect is submission. Peace purchased with self-betrayal is not peace but quiet servitude. You must choose between being liked or being respected. One is effortless, the other demands everything, yet only one grants you freedom. Allow me to share something disquieting. Even if you do everything flawlessly, if you are generous, patient, and kind, people will still find reasons to resent you. They will resent your talent, your independence. They will resent your ability to see through them. The illusion that you can earn universal affection is a deception that keeps you subservient. It prevents you from facing the simple truth. Influence, respect, and even genuine love are all born from the willingness to be disliked, from the refusal to compromise your truth for the comfort of others. Machiavelli did not write for those seeking universal love, but for those who aspire to govern themselves. There is power in this understanding, power in knowing that their animosity is a signal not of your cruelty, but of your refusal to be exploited. When you cease apologizing for your boundaries, you expose the unspoken agreement they had with you, the one where you gave and they took. When you stop explaining yourself, you shatter the framework that consistently cast you as the defendant in their private court. When you become silent, you force them to confront the questions they have long suppressed. Who are they without your compliance? What do they control when you no longer react? Your silence is not an absence, it is a provocation. It is a mirror held up to their vulnerability, and they will resent you for it. Let them, because animosity born of your independence is more valuable than affection purchased through self-betrayal. The objective is not to provoke for its own sake, but to be willing to provoke simply by being authentic, to understand that you can endure the discomfort of their rejection without rushing to appease them, to recognize that every time you deny your own needs to be liked, you are fueling their contempt for you. For what is more pathetic than the person who always yields? What is more despised than the one incapable of saying no? If you are to command respect your own above all, you must reconcile with being disliked. You must view their resentment not as a judgment of your character, but as proof of your refusal to be dominated, and in that realization lies your freedom. For once you cease fearing their disapproval, you become ungovernable. You no longer mold yourself to their desires. You no longer edit your truth to avoid their anger. You speak less, but what you say carries weight. You appear less frequently, but when you do, your presence commands attention. They can love you or hate you, but they will know they cannot control you without your consent. That is the essence of power, and that is where we begin. Do you understand why people find your boundaries offensive? It is not because they believe you are wrong, but because your refusal to bend exposes how much they depended on your vulnerability. Your no is not merely a word. It is an unveiling. It reveals their dependence, their entitlement, the unspoken agreements they crafted in their minds where you would always comply. They resent you because you compel them to confront the truth about themselves, and few can endure that mirror. Machiavelli understood this brutal dynamic well. The prince who desires to hold power cannot be universally loved. He must prioritize respect over affection, for affection is fleeting and respect endures, and so must you. If you seek control over your own life, you must be willing to relinquish the illusion of pleasing everyone. Consider what happens when you stop explaining yourself. The ensuing silence is not empty. It is filled with accusation, with their discomfort, with the clamor of their unspoken fears. They demand your justification not because they deserve it, but because your refusal unsettles them. It strips them of their power to define you. Remember this: people cannot tolerate what they cannot predict. Your unpredictability makes them anxious. Your silence becomes hostile in their eyes precisely because it is sovereign. It suggests that you owe them neither your reasoning, your vulnerability, nor your emotional labor, and for many, this is unforgivable. They will accuse you of arrogance because you no longer validate their ego. They will call you cruel because you no longer soothe their insecurities. They will label you selfish because you finally prioritize yourself. But understand the strategy behind these accusations. These words are not genuine judgments of your character. They are tools designed to herd you back into compliance. When someone cannot control you through affection, they will attempt to do so through guilt, and you must be able to recognize this manipulation for what it is: a negotiation where the price of peace is your surrender. You must ask yourself if you are willing to pay that price indefinitely. Observe the world around you. How many people are hollowed out by the need to be liked? How many suppress their rage, their truth, their dreams, just to avoid conflict? They wear smiles like armor and speak in pleasantries that conceal their despair. And for what? Approval, inclusion in circles that offer nothing but mediocrity and quiet resentment. They sacrifice their authenticity for meager scraps of acceptance. But here is the Machiavellian truth: no one respects the person who cannot stand alone. Dependence invites exploitation. Predictability invites manipulation. If you desire freedom, you must be capable of enduring solitude. Your willingness to be misunderstood is your shield. Your calm refusal to explain is your fortress. This does not mean you must become cold, unfeeling, or inhuman. It means you must choose your words with precision. Speak only when it serves your purpose. Reveal only what you wish to be known. Silence is not absence. It is presence, sharpened and controlled. Those who resent you for this were never allies of your freedom. They were allies of your submission. They thrived when you were predictable, when you assented without thought, when you rushed to alleviate every discomfort. The moment you cease, they reveal themselves not as friends, but as jailers whose prison walls were constructed from your own guilt. Ask yourself why you are so afraid to disappoint them. What contract did you sign that dictates you must always be agreeable? Did you believe this would procure loyalty, gratitude, love? Machiavelli would scoff at such naivete. Loyalty purchased through appeasement is worthless. Gratitude for self-betrayal is short-lived. Love that demands your sacrifice is merely control in disguise. If you desire freedom, you must be prepared to be alone, to stand in the silence after you say no, to witness doors close and know you did not close them. They did, because they could not bear the weight of your independence. You will see it clearly once you stop pursuing their approval. The accusations will come first. How dare you change? How dare you set boundaries? How dare you think you deserve peace? And when you refuse to explain, when you hold your ground, they will withdraw. They will sulk. They will gossip. They will attempt to cast you as the villain in the story they tell themselves so they don't have to confront their own dependence. Let them, because when you endure this storm without apology, you reveal something they cannot control, that you are no longer available as a resource for their comfort. And here is the hidden truth few admit: people respect what they cannot easily access. They value what they must earn. The more you give without demand, the less they appreciate it. The more you explain, the less they believe you. The more you rush to soothe, the less they respect your calm. In scarcity, there is value. In mystery, there is power. Machiavelli understood that appearances matter more than intentions, and nothing appears more formidable than an individual who needs nothing from those who would exploit them. Be that individual. Be willing to maintain your silence while they flail and accuse. It is the cost of your freedom. You may believe you are losing people when you withdraw. Perhaps you are, but consider who you are losing: those who demanded your constant compliance, those who felt entitled to your energy, those who thrived on your guilt. Their departure is not a loss. It is liberation. It creates space for those who can respect your boundaries, who can engage with you without needing to control you, and more importantly, it returns you to yourself, your time, your energy, your dignity. These are not luxuries. They are necessities for anyone who wishes to live by their own design rather than as a puppet in someone else's play. So, let them resent you, let them whisper, let them leave. The cost of their approval was too high. And as you stand there, perhaps solitary, but unyielding, you will experience something you haven't felt in years: your own power returning, your own voice unedited, your own values unnegotiated. This is the foundation upon which you will build everything else, and in that moment you will grasp the true meaning of freedom, not the ability to assent to everything, but the unwavering capacity to say no. Do you know what truly unnerves people about your silence? It is not merely your refusal to speak, it is your refusal to be predictable. Your silence is a closed door. It is a door they cannot see through, a lock they cannot pick, a question they cannot answer. And for those who have grown accustomed to your easy compliance, this is intolerable. Understand that when you are always available, always responsive, always ready to explain and justify, you are predictable. You are safe for them. You are a map they can navigate, a tool they can wield. Your silence shatters that illusion of mastery. It forces them to confront the unsettling possibility that they never truly knew you, and worse, that they cannot control you. Machiavelli would tell you that power resides in perception, and perception is built on mystery as much as clarity. The predictable person is at the mercy of others, for they can anticipate his moves, his needs, his weaknesses. But the person who is silent, who observes before speaking, who withholds more than he gives, is a problem no one knows how to solve. He cannot be cornered by guilt or obligation. He cannot be baited into reaction. He is opaque, unreadable, and therefore dangerous to those who rely on manipulation. This is why they resent you when you withdraw, not because you have wronged them, but because you have denied them access to the levers they once used so easily. Consider how people test your boundaries. They provoke you, insult you, bait you into explaining yourself. Why? Because your explanation is an opening, your defensiveness is a surrender. Every word you use to justify your boundary is a concession that it is negotiable. Your reaction proves they still have influence over you. But when you respond with silence, when you refuse to engage, you rob them of that power. They will accuse you of arrogance, of being cold, of thinking you are superior to them. Let them, for these accusations are not judgments, they are confessions. They reveal precisely how dependent they were on your willingness to be pliable. Ask yourself, how many times have you betrayed yourself for peace? How often have you smiled while seething inside, agreed while disagreeing, said yes while screaming no in your own head? You did this not out of kindness, but out of fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being labeled difficult, selfish, uncooperative. But you must understand, a peace bought with self-betrayal is no peace at all. It is a quiet war against your own soul. Machiavelli did not advise princes to avoid cruelty at all costs. He taught them to use it wisely, sparingly, decisively. Likewise, your withdrawal, your silence, your refusal to explain must not be arbitrary, but deliberate. It is not cowardice, it is strategy. Notice how those who claim to love you react when you change, when you say no, when you take longer to reply, when you refuse to justify. The ones who cherished your accessibility, your readiness to resolve their crises, your constant emotional labor, they will call you unrecognizable. They will say you have changed, and they are right. You have no longer willing to be the convenient mirror for their ego, the sponge for their anxiety, the resource they exploit without thought, and this change threatens them because it forces them to either respect your new boundaries or leave. Many will choose to leave, but understand their departure is not abandonment, it is exposure. Exposure of the truth that they were never there for you, only for what you provided them, and when you stop giving, they vanish. Let them grieve if you must, but do not pursue them, for in their place you will discover something rarer, your own integrity, the capacity to choose who deserves your time, your attention, your emotional labor, the courage to endure solitude rather than settle for exploitation. Machiavelli would say, it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But I will tell you this, it is better to be respected than loved. If the love demands your subservience, you will discover that those who remain, those who adapt to your boundaries, are worth infinitely more. They will not fear your silence but honor it. They will not demand your constant presence but appreciate it when given. They will not interpret your no as rejection but as honesty. These are the people with whom genuine connection is possible. But you cannot find them while surrounded by those who fear your independence. Your willingness to be alone is the filter through which true allies are revealed. Solitude is the crucible in which self-respect is forged. And yes, solitude will test you. There will be nights when you doubt yourself, when the silence feels suffocating, when you question whether you were too harsh, too unyielding. This is the price of breaking your conditioning. The world has trained you to equate validation with safety, to see approval as proof of your goodness, to treat other people's comfort as your responsibility. Reject this training. Your worth does not depend on their ease. Your goodness is not measured by your availability. Your life is not owed to anyone who would use guilt as a leash. Machiavelli taught that fortune favors the bold, but boldness is not always loud. Sometimes it is the quiet certainty of an individual who knows he does not have to perform for the crowd. It is the calm defiance of someone who can watch doors close and not beg for them to reopen. It is the disciplined refusal to explain your choices to those who have already decided you are wrong for making them. This is not cruelty. It is self-preservation. And in a world that rewards compliance and punishes difference, it is nothing less than an act of rebellion. So I ask you now, will you endure their hatred? Will you allow yourself to be misunderstood? Will you risk being seen as selfish, cold, difficult, all so you can finally be free? Or will you keep trading your authenticity for cheap approval, your peace for hollow praise, your power for their comfort? Choose carefully, because once you perceive this dynamic for what it is, you cannot unsee it, and once you refuse to play the role they wrote for you, you will never be welcome on that stage again. But you will possess something far greater than their applause. You will possess yourself. Have you noticed how quickly people weaponize your empathy against you? How they commend your kindness while exploiting it? How they applaud your generosity, as long as it serves them, but condemn your boundaries the moment you decide to protect yourself? This is the hypocrisy inherent in human relationships. They value you when you are pliable, agreeable, gentle. They value you when you are useful. But the instant you choose yourself, truly choose yourself, they will claim you have betrayed them. Understand this. You are not obligated to be anyone's savior. You are not required to sacrifice your peace for their convenience. Machiavelli knew that those who cannot defend their own interests will be devoured by those who can. You may believe your goodness will shield you from malice, but often it only marks you as easy prey. Observe how they react when you say no. Notice the disappointment that curdles into resentment, the feigned confusion. Why are you being like this? As if your compliance was their birthright. They will label you ungrateful, conveniently forgetting every instance they took you for granted. They will accuse you of changing, ignoring how they changed the moment you stop diminishing yourself for their comfort. Do not be deceived by these performances. These are not the cries of the wounded innocent. They are the last desperate attempts to drag you back into the role you once played. So a deptly. Because when you alter the rules, you expose the unfairness of the old game, and no one enjoys being shown their own duplicity. Ask yourself who benefits from your guilt, who profits from your inability to say no, who grows stronger every time you silence your own needs. These are not the people who love you. These are the people who love what you do for them. Their resentment isn't proof of your wrongdoing. It's proof you've become unusable. Machiavelli would suggest viewing such animosity as a mark of progress, for genuine independence will inevitably breed resentment in those who thrived on your subservience. Your withdrawal isn't an insult. It's an audit, revealing who was truly loyal to you and who was merely loyal to their own comfort. Consider this. From childhood, you were taught to be good, to share, to apologize first, to maintain peace, to avoid conflict. Yet no one explained that peace without respect is servitude, that a yes born of fear isn't virtue but surrender, and that appeasement isn't kindness but self-effacement. The world will never teach you this because it benefits from your unawareness. Your employer, your partner, your friends, even your family, they all gain when you prioritize their needs over your own without question. Consequently, they celebrate your selflessness while subtly resenting any display of self-respect. They'll claim that love necessitates sacrifice, but they'll never admit that sacrifice must be reciprocal, and that boundaries are the true measure of respect. So when you finally draw a line, anticipate a backlash. When you declare enough, prepare for accusations. When you opt for silence over explanation, be ready for them to fill that silence with their worst projections. Let them. Don't rush to correct them. Don't scramble to validate your goodness, because in that moment, your silence isn't absence. It's revelation. It's the mirror they cannot bear to face. Machiavelli understood that the most potent threat isn't brute force but unpredictability. Your refusal to explain yourself renders you unreadable, unmanageable, and they will resent you for it. Good. Let them. They'll say you're cold. Better cold than compliant. They'll say you're arrogant. Better arrogant than self-sacrificing to your detriment. They'll claim you believe you're superior to them. And perhaps you are, if only because you finally learned to value your own soul over their approval. This is the uncomfortable truth no one wishes to vocalize. Those who demand your humility are rarely humble themselves. Those who preach sacrifice seldom sacrifice in return. They've simply mastered the power of moral blackmail, and you, in your guilt, were their willing accomplice, but no longer. Do you desire respect? And you must become dangerous. Not in a sense of causing harm to others, but in the sense of refusing to be harmed by them. Dangerous because you cannot be guilt-tripped into submission. Dangerous because your kindness is a choice, not a compulsion. Dangerous because you recognize your worth and refuse to devalue it for approval. Machiavelli would tell you this is the essence of power. the ability to dictate your own terms, to accept or reject, to engage or withdraw without apology. It isn't cruelty, it is sovereignty. Consider the relationships that crumbled when you ceased overgiving. Did they collapse because you became a worse person, or because you stopped playing the role they assigned you? Did you lose friends because you turned cruel, or because you dared to set limits? This is the truth that wounds most deeply. When you evolve, you compel everyone around you to reevaluate the terms of your connection. And not everyone is willing to undertake that effort. Not everyone wishes to perceive you as a complete individual with needs and boundaries. Some only desired the version of you that served their purposes. So, let them go. Watch them depart without pursuit. Your worth was never measured by your ability to keep them comfortable. It's measured by your ability to stand alone if necessary, to confront their disappointment without flinching, to hear their accusations without internalizing them as truth. Because the moment you decide you will no longer explain yourself, you reclaim every part of yourself that was incrementally surrendered. Your time, your energy, your peace, your dignity. This is the price of freedom. It isn't cheap. It will cost you the approval of those who never truly valued you. It will cost you the illusion of universal likability. It will cost you the safety of being predictable. But what you gain is immeasurable. You gain the clarity to discern who genuinely respects you, the strength to detach from what insults your soul, the calm that arises from no longer negotiating your worth, and above all, you gain yourself whole, unbent, unapologetic, and that is a treasure no one can take from you. Do you feel the silence pressing in now? That heavy, uncomfortable void that emerges when you cease explaining. Cease apologizing. Cease filling the air with words designed to soothe and reassure. Sit with it, because within that silence lies truth. The truth about you, about them, about the entire dishonest system of emotional debt you've been paying throughout your life. Machiavelli would tell you that people fear what they do not understand, and nothing is more challenging to comprehend than the person who doesn't justify themselves. Your silence isn't emptiness. It's a boundary. It's a fortress. It's the declaration that you will no longer participate in your own exploitation. Think about the expressions of those who demanded your time, your energy, your emotional labor. How quickly did their gratitude morph into anger when you set limits? How easily did praise become accusation? They never desired your freedom. They desired your compliance. They wanted you to be reliably self-sacrificing. And when you refuse that role, you force them to confront their own dependence on your sacrifice. This is why they resent you, not for any cruelty you committed, but for the audacity of choosing yourself. It is your freedom they cannot forgive. People desire you to be predictable because predictability is control. They want to know you'll answer the phone at midnight, that you'll nod politely when insulted, that you'll smile while your boundaries are violated. They want to know you'll soothe their fears even as your own are disregarded. When you cease performing these roles, they panic, they accuse, they withdraw. Let them reveal their true selves. Your silence doesn't create these truths, it merely uncovers them. Machiavelli wrote that people forget the death of their fathers more quickly than the loss of their patrimony. Similarly, people will forget your kindness faster than they will forgive the moment you deny them what they believe they own: your obedience. Understand this. You owe no one an explanation for protecting your peace. You owe no one a performance of suffering to prove your goodness. Your boundaries are not negotiations. They are statements of fact, and anyone who cannot accept them is announcing they were never genuinely interested in you, only in your usefulness. This is the most difficult lesson to learn because it is the loneliest. You will lose people, you will miss invitations, you will forfeit the false comfort of being liked. But what you gain is incorruptible. You gain clarity, you gain respect, you gain yourself. Do not mistake this path for an easy one. It is anything but. When you stop explaining yourself, you will feel the weight of every unspoken expectation pressing against you. You will hear the echoes of your conditioning whispering that you are selfish, ungrateful, difficult. You will perceive the confusion in the eyes of those who cannot fathom why you will no longer dance to their tune. This is the price of becoming sovereign. You must endure being misunderstood. You must tolerate being labeled cruel by those who benefited from your kindness. You must learn to remain calm in the face of their outrage, to hold your ground when they demand your surrender. They will test you. They will attempt to provoke you back into old patterns. A snide remark, a guilt trip, a tearful plea. They know your triggers because you showed them where they were, and so the real work begins, disabling those triggers. No one can make you feel guilty without your consent. No one can force you to react if you choose silence. No one can manipulate you if you recognize your own worth. Machiavelli would remind you that mercy without strategy is weakness, and kindness without limits is ruin. Your silence isn't cruelty. It is the discipline that protects everything you hold sacred. Reflect on your own life. How much energy have you squandered trying to manage others' perceptions? How many hours have you spent rehearsing explanations, crafting justifications, composing apologies for the crime of having needs? How often have you said yes while internally screaming no? This isn't nobility. This is servitude, and the world will never thank you for it. It will only demand more of your time, more of your energy, more of your soul. until there is nothing left but resentment and emptiness. Enough, let the silence fall like a guillotine on those expectations. Let the words you no longer utter become monuments to your liberation. Because there's a hidden power in being quiet, not passive, not defeated, but quiet like a deep ocean, unperturbed by surface storms, quiet like a person who knows they cannot be baited, quiet like someone who understands that the truth doesn't require their defense. When you become this person, the world loses its grip on you, manipulators lose their leverage, opportunists lose their access, and those who remain, those who stay, despite your silence, despite your boundaries, are the ones worth keeping, because they don't fear your sovereignty. They respect it. So I ask you now, can you endure being disliked? Can you bear the weight of silence when it is heavy with all the things you refuse to justify? Can you let go of the need to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding? This is the crucible of your transformation, the test of whether you will remain a servant to others' comfort or claim the throne of your own life. Machiavelli wouldn't promise you love for this choice. He would promise you respect, and in the end, that is worth far more, because love without respect is exploitation, and approval without boundaries is slavery. You must decide what you want. Do you wish to be liked by all and owned by all, or do you wish to be respected even if it costs you cheap affection? Do you desire peace that is conditional on your submission, or the kind that comes from knowing you will not betray yourself, no matter who demands it? The choice is yours, and once made, it must be defended without apology, without explanation, without the need to be forgiven for existing as you are. Because the moment you explain yourself, you surrender the power of your silence, and in that silence lies the blueprint of your freedom. When you finally choose silence over explanation, something remarkable begins to occur. The world, once so clamorous with its demands, grows uneasy. The people who relied on your endless yes start to falter at your quiet no. Those who found comfort in your self-sacrifice begin to feel exposed, confronted not by anything you say, but by everything you withhold. Machiavelli would assert this is the point where power shifts. When you stop playing your assigned role, you compel everyone else to reveal theirs, and you will see them clearly. Perhaps for the first time not as friends or partners or allies, but as participants in a bargain you never fully agreed to, a bargain where your peace was the cost of their comfort. You will be called selfish for refusing to explain. You will be labeled cruel for protecting your time. You will be judged arrogant for not justifying your decisions. Let them speak, let them rage, let them gossip, because these accusations are confessions in disguise. They admit that your compliance was never love, it was convenience, it was control. And the fact that you now withhold it is intolerable to those who believe they were entitled to it forever. Your silence is the first time you've truly articulated your worth, and the outrage it provokes is proof that they heard you. Expect loneliness, not the loneliness of abandonment, but the loneliness of clarity. The loneliness that arises when you no longer surround yourself with those who need you to be weak. This is the cost of choosing yourself. You will wrestle with doubts. You will recall old patterns that once garnered approval. You will feel the ache of closing doors, but endure it. For this is the sacred isolation Machiavelli understood well. The retreat where you are no longer performing, no longer reacting, no longer available for cheap consumption. It is here, in this silence, that you reclaim the energy you scattered across 1,000 unworthy causes. In time, you will discover that this silence isn't emptiness. It is space, space to think, space to choose, space to become. The world desires you to be distracted, reactive, constantly explaining yourself, so you never realize how much of yourself you've relinquished. But in the quiet, you begin to perceive the boundaries of your own soul. You begin to feel the weight of your own needs, your own desires, your own truth, and you realize how little of it was ever truly respected by those who claim to love you. This realization will burn. Let it. The fire of truth is the forge of transformation. Because once you endure this silence, you emerge changed. No longer desperate to be understood by everyone. No longer willing to barter your authenticity for approval. No longer afraid of disappointing those who only loved you. Compliant. You speak less, but your words carry weight. You appear less, but your presence exudes power. You give less, but what you give is genuine. And you demand the same in return, not from everyone, but from those who would stand beside you in truth, rather than hover over you in control. Machiavelli taught that power is the ability to act on your own terms, and your silence is the birthplace of that ability. Consider the relationships that survive this transformation. They will be fewer, yes, but stronger. These are the people who don't penalize your boundaries, who don't crumble when you say no, who don't demand you sacrifice your soul to prove your love. They will respect you not in spite of your independence, but because of it. And in that respect lies the possibility of real connection. Connection built not on obligation but on mutual choice. These bonds are rarer than you think, but they cannot be found while you are busy explaining yourself to those who refuse to listen. You will also witness those who cannot remain. Let them go. Their departure isn't your failure. It is your freedom. You don't need relationships that only endure when you are willing to vanish into them. You don't need friends who love the mask and fear the face beneath. You don't need to apologize for the space you occupy. the truth you speak, the peace you defend. Machiavelli would say that mercy without judgment is weakness. Your silence is the judgment. It is the refusal to negotiate with those who will only ever perceive you as a resource to be exploited. So ask yourself now, in this final moment, are you willing to be alone if it means being whole? Are you prepared to be misunderstood if it means being honest? Can you endure their hatred if it means you no longer hate yourself? This is the crucible, this is the prize, and this is the freedom they never wanted you to discover. Because a person who no longer explains themselves cannot be managed. A person who refuses to justify cannot be controlled. A person who is willing to stand alone cannot be conquered. Remember this always. Silence is not weakness. It is strategy. It is sovereignty. It is the final proof that you have nothing left to prove. So choose it. Choose the discomfort of the unsaid over the betrayal of the self. Choose the respect that comes from mystery over the contempt that comes from predictability. Choose the freedom that comes from knowing you owe no one your explanation. Because in the end, when the noise subsides and the crowds disperse, the only question that remains is whether you lived for their approval or your own truth. And the answer to that question is written not in the words you spoke to them, but in the silence you kept for yourself. If you have made it this far, it's because a part of you is already prepared to embark on this more challenging path. A part of you understands that universal acceptance means nothing if you have to abandon yourself to attain it. True self-respect begins the moment you choose yourself, even if it costs you approval, even if it means standing alone for a while. Now, tell me in the comments, are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, even hated, all in the name of your own freedom? Are you willing to pay the price of being fully, unapologetically you? If this message resonated with you, if it made sense, write in the comments, I choose my freedom. Let's see how many are ready for that transition. And don't forget, keep watching the next video. It's more important than you might realize. See you there.